Hi everyone. So I figured it would be fun to do a little reading vlog where it's how much I read realistically in a week as someone with a 9 to 5 and that does YouTube. So I figured why not? I haven't done this before. It seemed like a really fun idea, and I know for me, my reading can be different depending on the week. I was like, sure, I'm gonna go and film in a different location, get different lighting, whatnot, and then this guy decides that he's gonna go and basically mess up my makeshift tripod because he is a quarantine kitten, and so he is glued to me 24/7. But I've seen some people do a realistic what I read in a week, and since I have a 9 to 5, I thought it would be really fun and different to do a little reading vlog with this. So it's going to be like my normal reading vlogs, but at the same time, we're going to keep track of how many books I read, how many pages potentially. We'll see how easy that is to do. But I have a few different books. One of them that I'm really close to finishing is 13 Months Haunted by Jimmy Giuliano. I have 3 hours and 14 minutes left of this. I am listening to it currently at 1.2 speed. So I have this book. I'm on chapter 33, at least what it says in the Everend app. But I noticed that a lot of the time the chapters that it has do not necessarily match up with what the chapter would be in the book physically. And then another book that I'm reading is Conform by Ariel Sullivan. This was one that was on my March Defend the TBR, and I just didn't get to it in time. But since I'm not doing a Defend the TBR for the month of April, I am allowing myself to kind of carry some of the books over. So I am reading this. It is really good, but also kind of icky just with the whole perfect genetic piece. But I find this kind of interesting, especially reading for Limb Loss and Limb Difference Awareness Month, since I am someone with a disability. So I am curious on this. And then 13 Months Haunted has been really good so far. It does have some creepy and eerie vibes. I do like with the audiobook as well, there's like a dial-up tone whenever you're listening to the portion that covers the characters' e-journals. So I find that really fun, but also kind of traumatic for anyone that also grew up with dial-up internet and knows how stressful it was whenever you lost internet connection and you were talking to your friends or playing a game using the internet and someone called and messed up and disturbed that. But yeah, those are the 2 books that I'm reading currently. I'll try to keep you updated on how well I do, at least like how many pages maybe I read for that day. I'm not quite sure how I'll do on this because this is my first time, but we'll see. I'm really excited to see how things go, so I'll let you know.
Good. Yeah. That's huh? Huh? Oh, you're good girl. You're good girl. Yeah.
Got a little Cicero tale. So originally this video was going to be what I realistically read with a 9 to 5 over a week. And it was going to include like fun little vlogging bits and whatnot, but I think this is going to instead be that same concept. However, oh my god, the cat's tails are just popping up all over the place. This is going to instead be what I'm able to read with a 9 to 5 while emotionally not doing great. I think, you know, I had my video that came out on April Fool's Day, and that was completely a mistake on my end. I did not mean to do a jump scare for people. Uh, I just, I do the best when I go and talk about my feelings and share those thoughts, and I process things the best that way. I'm not great at keeping things pent up, because when I do that, I explode and it's never great. And I did technically explode because I did have a panic attack that led me to realize I needed to make that video. And it wasn't supposed to be a jump scare kind of going and saying like, hey, I'm leaving. I'm not leaving. I'm still gonna be here. It's just, you know, taking things off of my plate and changing things around slightly, because I don't do well with stress, and I really do need to take steps back to a certain extent. But after posting that video, I was like, you know what? I feel okay. Maybe we can do things. And then additional stress popped up, and it's just it's not great. And I'm trying to go and be healthier, get more movement, because I do work from home. But like this morning I woke up and I was just so emotionally and mentally drained and exhausted. So I didn't do my little workout this morning like I had hoped before my work day. And yesterday I barely got any reading done. I think I got 3 hours, like a little bit less than 3 hours of my audiobook done. So I have 30 minutes left of it today, and I'm going to be able to finish that book. But I think after that, I don't know if I want to listen to a book. I feel like I just want to, you know, zone out, focus on my work, but like have like a zombie show or something playing in the background, because I need that escapism with a zombie apocalypse. I'm weird. I find weird ways to kind of like decompress, and a lot of it has to do with like horror related things. I don't know why. Oh, Nuggy's gonna start chasing the cats in the background. Hi, baby. But yeah, so thank you. So I kind of think like that's the game plan here. We're still gonna do the video that I planned on, but we're just changing it up a little bit. So this might be a little bit more of a raw and real heart-to-heart video with those moments, but still trying to get some reading in, but showing that like sometimes when you're going through a funk, it is difficult to get reading done. So we'll see how things go. That's the little check-in here. I'll let you know how the book is once I finish it, and we'll go from there. Hello everyone, just wanted to check in. I feel like truthfully today is a lot better of a day. So my mood truthfully feels so much better today. Some of the pieces that were giving me a lot of additional stress seem to be resolved, so that's been really great. I've kind of been really decompressing a lot after I get off work and just kind of zoning out into certain things. And that has been nice. I've had a lot of low pressure, at least as far as it comes to reading and everything. And honestly, just with all the additional stress I've had this month so far, that is showing that it is desperately needed. So I meant to check in with you yesterday after I finished 13 Months Haunted. That obviously didn't happen. I did finish the book, and I think it was pretty good. I feel like when I was looking at reviews, it was kind of back and forth on a few pieces, but I honestly really enjoyed it. I felt like in some ways it was kind of The Ring to me, but when I was looking at other reviews, people weren't really comparing it to The Ring, because with The Ring, that horror movie, if you watch this video clip, then you have like a certain amount of days, otherwise you're going to go and die. And I don't know if, I can't remember for sure if there was a way to avoid a lot of that happening. I think it also was kind of around like you couldn't be alone. It's been a while since I watched that movie, and to be honest, I only ever watched it once because there was an animal scene that I was not a fan of, and if you have watched it, if you know, you know. So after that, I never watched it again. Usually with a lot of horror movies, especially if I do really enjoy them, I'll watch them over and over again. Horror movies and like zombie things like that, that is kind of like my comfort stuff to consume. It might be a little bit weird, but I find comfort in that stuff instead of more romantic comedies or comedy shows. I think The Good Witch was my only exception for a comfort show that I actually really enjoyed, but I'm totally getting off on a separate tangent. But yeah, with 13 Months Haunted, it kind of reminded me of The Ring, except add like spam and chain emails, because there was this whole plot piece with this chain email that was getting linked around with an attachment, and if you watched that, you could not be left alone, otherwise this mysterious mist or whatnot would go and get you. And I honestly really enjoyed it. There were some portions that had this dial-up sound that was a little bit triggering, because I'm 30 years old. I grew up in a time when we had dial-up internet. And if you grew up with dial-up internet, you know how painful it was to experience, because if someone called or something happened, it would completely disrupt your connection with the internet. So whatever you were doing, you kind of lost that piece. And as someone that also, I think I might have started playing World of Warcraft when we had dial-up internet, and gosh, I was brave to do that, because we got a lot of phone calls back in those days, because we did not have cell phones for the longest time. So yeah, that part kind of triggered me, but was also nostalgic in a way. So I feel like this book was perfect for people that did receive those chain emails where it's like, if you don't send it to 10 people, then this is going to happen. This is kind of one of those things that, like, if you were paranoid like me back in those days and you had to send those emails, otherwise you were worried blank and blank would happen, then yeah, I felt like this book was perfect for that. And then aside from that book, I did make a little bit more of a dent into Conform by Ariel Sullivan. I really am enjoying this. It kind of has, I don't know, I said it kind of, it definitely has a eugenics piece, and I feel like as someone that's reading this during Limb Loss and Limb Difference Awareness Month that also did face a huge ableistic perspective from a past partner, there are a lot of ways that I can kind of relate to our main character in this. So with this book, there's the elites that are basically on the top, then there's the minor defects, and then the major defects. And defects basically involve anyone that does not have ideal genetics. So this could be very much including physical as well as invisible disabilities. And as someone that has both physical as well as invisible disabilities, I could 100% relate to this, because as I alluded to before, I have had a past partner that basically ended things with me after learning that my disabilities are genetic and can get passed on to offspring. So I very much relate to our main character, because she has a defect, and because of this, her family kind of cast her out because she has these non-ideal genes for having offspring. And that is a huge piece. Like, the elites basically have the perfect genetics, the perfect genes that they want passed on to their children. And if one of these children has one of these genes that they don't find desirable, then they get demoted basically to being a minor defect, or even worse, a major defect. And it seems like a lot of the major defects are ones that are originally minor defects, but when a potential mate keeps like turning them down and no one finds them ideal, or if they have an offspring that also has these defects as well, then they get demoted to major defects, and those are kind of looked at as the worst of the worst. And just the huge piece with this book is having ideal genes that you're able to pass on to children. And it seems like there's not really a marriage piece, there's just like this mate piece, and that's who your partner is. And as a woman, your sole goal is to have these perfect offspring. And if you can't provide that, you're basically useless. So yeah, there's a lot of really interesting pieces in it. There's definitely a lot of that frustration, but also at the same time, I just find this book completely fascinating, especially because it is a dystopian world. So there is a little bit of like The Handmaid's Tale that I can kind of see with this, just because there are characters that are being solely used for having these perfect offspring and whatnot. So there is that piece, but there's also a little bit more to it as well. And it is frustrating, it is angry. And with this book, you can see a lot of pieces that relate to our current political climate, not only with this book, but also with The Handmaid's Tale, especially with the restrictions that have been placed on women's bodies and what they can or can't do when it comes to having children. So yeah, there's just a lot of interesting pieces, but I find that I always am just fascinated by dystopian books because it's always interesting to see what the author chooses to do with the world that they're building as far as the dystopian world, and if there are certain pieces that they're doing to go and like poke at our own political climate. Because if you can't tell from my channel, I do 100% stand behind the point that reading is political, and especially when you pick up dystopian books, these 100% are political books because it's always pointing a finger at certain pieces. It's like, how do they get some of these ideas? They're pulling from the real world. So yeah, I'm really loving this book so far. I'm at chapter 13 currently, so I'm excited to get further in it. I always stand firmly behind the piece that after you get past the 100-page mark, things really start picking up, and it's definitely doing that. So I'm excited to go from here on this. I don't know if I'm gonna pick up another audiobook just yet, if I'm completely honest. Although I'm doing better mentally today, I still feel like I kind of wanna have something else playing in the background instead of having an audiobook. So we'll probably do that, and then later tonight Charles and I will actually be having couch time, which is just our little term that we use for having time together. So we'll be on the couch, probably watching some movies or a TV show, maybe playing some games on our Switches. But yeah, just having that really close time. I think especially because I've had a panic attack a week ago and just have been dealing with a lot of stress, it will be nice to kind of unplug to a certain extent and just hang out with my partner. So yeah, I'll probably show you what we're eating or watching later tonight, but I don't think I'm gonna give any more updates until then. But as you've seen, I've tried to include like little subtitle type of notifications on how much I've read, either through an audiobook or physically. So you'll get a little notification later. So I've been absolutely horrid at checking in for any reading or whatnot. I think the other night, I think the last day I checked in was the day that Charles and I were gonna do some couch time, and we did do our couch time, but oh my gosh, I was so embarrassed. So Charles ended up kind of getting a little bit of an upset stomach right at the beginning of our couch time, and we had kind of agreed to go and watch Bram Stoker's Dracula because I had remembered that I was obsessed with that movie growing up. And here's the thing, I very much question my memory, because when I was watching this movie, I remembered that it was cheesy, but I didn't remember some pieces of it. So while Charles and I were watching it, I was kind of like cringing, like what in the world, like where was the part that I was obsessed with this movie? And I feel like part of it was because, as I kind of do with a lot of things, if I'm playing video games or doing certain tasks that aren't reading, I like to usually have something playing on in the background. And so when I remember being obsessed with this movie, I believe I was playing World of Warcraft or I was playing Skyrim, and I just really liked having that additional background noise. And so Charles was saying, and Charles is an elementary school counselor and we both have backgrounds in psychology, they were saying that I probably hyperfixated on my game, and because of that just kind of had fond memories of that movie. But yeah, it was not great. There were some pieces that I just did not like. One piece though that I did remember correctly was that movie was basically the reason why I have a strong dislike of Keanu Reeves. Not him as a person, but just him as an actor. I just really despised his character, mostly because like younger me was just like, I want Mina and Dracula to have their happily ever after because he's been searching for his love, yada yada yada. Honestly, my friend Becca at Gemini Pages is going to be very happy for me saying this, but don't watch that movie. Watch Dracula, A Love Tale. This is a way better rendition. There's the yearning, but that is a way better rendition. There's the yearning, there's just beautiful costumes, and ambiance and the set display and everything, that one is much, much better. Don't watch this other one. It was fine back in that time, but especially now there's just so many cringy pieces. I can't go and say like it's the best movie ever, because especially going and watching it now, I'm like, I'm still struggling to know like why I was so obsessed with it. Maybe it was just, you know, vampire girly, loving anything with a vampire that I could get my hands on at that time. I don't know. But yeah, so I forgot to check in then, and then I've been doing a little bit of reading here and there, but mostly just with going and reading at night. So I haven't really read too many pages, and like I said on a previous check-in, I just didn't really want to go and listen to any audiobooks. So I've been watching playthroughs of Days Gone, which is one of my all-time favorite zombie games, aside from The Last of Us. Days Gone is one that's set in the Pacific Northwest, and I feel like their zombies are a mixture of World War Z and I Am Legend. So it's a really fun rendition of zombies, but a little bit more scary because they have that fast speed like World War Z zombies, but they have the appearance like I Am Legend zombies. But yeah, I've been watching a playthrough of that, and I've really been enjoying it. I feel like eventually I do want to play it on my own, but the horde portion might be a little bit tricky for myself. But yeah, I'm planning on getting back into streaming on Twitch here soon, hopefully this coming weekend, which if you're already watching this and I did go live, then you would have probably already seen that. But yeah, eventually I think I'd like to go and play that game on my own. And playing some Pokemon Violet, I never actually finished that game, so I finally did the Elite Four, the Starfell pathline and everything. I did all of that story stuff, and then now I'm at the point where you go to Ground Zero. Is that what it's called? Ground Zero, potentially? I don't know. But I'm at the point where I can go and do that. I've also caught 2 shinies. Never gotten any shiny Pokemon before, so that has been really exciting. And then I was trying to get a shiny Vaporeon in an outbreak the other day, and I couldn't do it. I followed everything and it still wasn't happening. So Charles was like, just go and finish the game so you can get a shiny charm. We'll go and do some trades because they have Scarlet, so we can go and trade the Pokemon that we don't have. We'll do all the things so we can get your shiny evolution. So that's kind of the plan that way. But I think as far as today, I'm gonna work on getting everything downloaded. I took today off as a mental health day because this month, even though we haven't gotten too far in it, has already been a struggle bus, needless to say. So far what I've done today was a book mail book haul. So I did some of that, which was really fun. I got a lot of fun books in that haul. But I think now I'm gonna go and get everything downloaded. I also did some really fun setups and changes for my Twitch channel. So there's different commands and other things like that that I'm excited to test out. Because knock on wood, they should be working. And then I might just play some Project Zomboid, finish up watching the Days Gone playthrough, and just kind of relax for the rest of the day. And then tomorrow, Charles and I are going to do some shopping and some errands, and it'll just be a lot of fun. I don't really know how much I'm going to get done reading-wise for the rest of this week, because this is kind of a reading vlog while dealing with seasonal depression. But I think at the same time, it just makes a very accurate portrayal of sometimes when we're dealing with seasonal depression or just something mentally, it's not always easy to go and pick up a book, and it might not be the place for escapism that we're wanting when times aren't really easy for us. So I kind of like this raw and real heart-to-heart with this video. So I hope you're enjoying it too. I know in the past I've made videos like this and people do enjoy it because it helps them feel not so alone. So I'm a huge advocate for that, and just wanting other people to know, like, hey, everything isn't always sunshine and rainbows. So yeah, I need to go and clean up everything because I just filmed this right after my little book haul, but I'll check in with you guys maybe tonight and maybe a different day. We'll see. Hi everyone. So good news and bad news. Bad news is I kind of failed at this whole realistic 9 to 5 reading as far as the expectations and what I wanted to do in my head. But the good news is I feel like this was a very accurate portrayal of what realistic reading looks like with a 9 to 5 and dealing with seasonal depression. As you might have seen by the end of some of the days, I read like maybe a little bit over 20 pages, and then some days it might have been under 15. And that's okay. That's honestly how it can be sometimes, and it can be really difficult to pick up a book. But the thing is, like, I do want to go and say that there is nothing against Conform. I am absolutely enjoying this book. I am getting a lot closer to being done with the book. I'm on page 222. And I'm absolutely loving this book. It is really great. I'm loving a lot of the different themes in it, and it's really getting intense and constantly has me wondering, like, okay, what's gonna happen next? Who do we trust in this situation? And especially out of the elite that are being shown into the story now. So I am really, really enjoying this. Sadly, I just didn't get to go and finish it during this reading vlog, and that's okay, that's fine. I'll probably finish this book at a different time, but yeah, I just wanted to give an update there. So this last weekend, instead of doing a lot of reading, I ended up going and doing a lot of self-care time. Charles and I ran some errands. We went over to TJ Maxx and Home Goods because we needed to go and get some glasses. We've kind of been lacking on them, and I accidentally broke one recently. I don't know if it was me so much breaking it as our dishwasher did, because I picked it up and then this piece fell off. So I'm gonna say it was the dishwasher that did it. We got a really cool little table that we put in our sunroom, and we're really hoping to go and do a lot of reorganization, especially since we have family and friends coming down later this year for my wedding. And then I did a lot of playing on Project Zomboid. Surprise, surprise. I was going to try to do a Twitch stream this weekend, and I was like, you know what? I just want to really relax, because honestly, I just feel like I'm always working, and it was just really nice to kind of unplug and not feel the need to do a lot of work and everything. And then on Sunday, we ended up doing a little bit of front lawn work. Charles accidentally did this whole thing with the fertilizer. He was trying to put the fertilizer on our front yard to kind of help our front lawn grow. Well, we don't have one of those spreaders, and so there were just like clumps that were all over the place. And looking at it, apparently when that happens, it can go and burn your front lawn. And so that happened, and we had to go and try to disperse those pieces and spray weeds and put some like lawn feeder stuff. So hopefully that will help. I'm not quite sure what will happen, but we'll see. We can't really go and do too much because like Colorado is really kind of hurting for water. Our weather has been not the best when it's come to snow and rain. Every time we get something in the weather reports, it's like it either hits somewhere else or we get like 2 drops of rain and that's it. So we'll see how things go. We were just trying to go and correct the little burned out areas in our front lawn because it doesn't look great, and it's obvious that we try to do something because it's just like this squiggle all across the line. So yeah, that was an interesting piece there. And then I did go and post my recent PR book mail haul. As you might know from watching my channel, I'm not doing any large book hauls, at least with my own money. That isn't really something I'm going to be doing a lot of, at least for the rest of this year, because I am trying to go and save up for a wedding and all the additional costs and everything there. But I am doing PR book mails because I am in publisher programs. But I did realize that I completely forgot one book, so we're gonna go and open it up here. I had it sitting over on this side of my office, and so I didn't have it with the rest of my books. But the one that we're gonna go over is The Commons by Rebecca M. I don't think I'm saying that right, but it says, "Fit in or face death, a whole new world awaits." And then you go and open it, and it says, "Hi there, commoner. You want to rule the world? Well, you'll first have to survive the commons." And then there's a few different things in here. So I have a golden ticket, and it looks like this is something that's kind of like in the running of things, and I don't quite remember what the date on this means, so I don't want to read it to confuse anyone. This says on sale April 28th, but I want to say that I saw something else where it was saying that it's actually going to be later in the year that this releases. But it says, you must learn to think, act, and look like everyone else or face death. Fitting in at school just went to a whole other level. What do you do when all your thoughts are being measured to make sure you are a common copy of everyone? What do you do when you are graded on how common you are? Your future depends on your ability to conform. It's funny that it says conform here because we're currently reading a book with that title. And then common meaning. You stand at the precipice of purpose. If your heart calls you to something more, if your soul longs for something higher, then you may just be selected into the meaning zone. Only those who cannot be brought or broken survive. If you want to make meaning of the world and help others find it, then this is the zone for you. It's really interesting because in that little blurb, only one word is kind of like different color in it, so I wonder if that is intentional. And then for the book itself, this is it. So this is the advanced reader's copy. It's not as thick as I was kind of thinking it was going to be, but it says the commons was untouchable, well, until I stepped in. So I believe this is a dystopian book, and I did get reached out to go and receive a copy of this book, and it definitely sounded like something that is right up my alley. I do really love the way the cover looks, and it looks like in each of the different directions we have like elemental signs. So there's like fire up here, earth I'm assuming here, wind, and then water. So I'm so excited to go and check this out. Like I said, some of the stuff that's in here, I know I got an email that said that the date for the release was a little bit different, so I'll make sure to go and leave the information down below so that I'm not giving you the wrong release date for this book if you are interested in it. But I'm super excited to read this. I have really been in a dystopian type of mood lately, so I can't wait to go and check this out. But that is everything I'm going to do for this video. I am feeling much better, at least at the moment. Like I said, my moods can kind of be a little bit of a roller coaster and all over the place. If you are intrigued, if you do like these videos or like any of the other videos that I put out, please consider going and subscribing. It supports my little channel on this tiny corner of the internet, as well as liking or even leaving a hype. Hypes do go and help out small channels like mine because it helps promote them to other people that may not have been on this corner of the internet. And if you got to this point of the video and you don't know what to comment, I'd say maybe leave some clouds for Conform, because the elite and everyone that is higher up in this world lives above the clouds type of thing. So yeah, leave some clouds for that. Until then, I will see you in the next video, and as always, always remember that you're worthy and capable of amazing things. Bye, friends.